Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Harris. Thank you for swinging back by. Today, I'm with Clint Lien, the Executive Vice President of Bluebook. Clint, thank you for swinging by.
Absolutely.
You're attending the 5-star conference?
I am. I had to come and represent and see some clients and get some new ones. And, and plus it's in Dallas, so it's not a bad place to be.
Well, I agree.
I would assume.
I'm a big Dallas fan, but real quick, just 60 seconds, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, sounds good. I am a contractor by trade and by blood. So 3rd-generation carpenter, also into hot rods, and I'm a gearhead. But for Bluebook, I've been there 22 years. Started out as a consultant and started out with just doing some biz dev stuff for them, doing some contract negotiation. They found out a lot more about my background, so that they put me in charge of the research team. So researching line items and researching material factors, different types of technology, how technology was changing, and then just taught me their ways of building their line items and their databases.
And you're a gearhead.
Oh, yeah.
You're from Oregon, live in Laguna.
Yep.
What's your favorite car?
Oh, that's the hardest question ever.
It's not really. I mean, it's a question, and I get to ask them. So,
okay.
What's the favorite car?
Well, right now it's the one in my garage, which is a 1965 GTO Hearst Edition. Yeah, that's all done, and it's beautiful.
Yeah?
So that's my favorite.
Tried it?
Oh, yeah.
I can't stand people buy these cars and don't drive.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't buy it, drive.
Yeah.
That's the way I think.
Yeah. I got that one to drive, and then I've got 3 that we're building, and one of them that I drive there, too.
We're going to have to connect with that after the show. My youngest son, you'll love this. I made some biscuits this morning, and I heated up the honey because it was all solid. Mm-hmm. And he's currently in 8th grade, and he's in the, IPC, the physics and chemistry class.
Okay.
And he goes, "Dad, you heated up too much, and you messed up the viscosity." And I was like, "Who are you? You 13-year-old know-it-all?" And he goes, "Well, that's the right word, right?" I was like, yeah. It is.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I went to my wife later. I was like, "Hey, with this one, there's going to come a time where he's saying stuff that we don't understand."
Yeah. Yeah. And that could be tomorrow.
I'm already on it, right?
Yeah.
So the first segment every week is a segment I call the bottom line up front. I like to give the listeners kind of the most important things that the guest sees going on in the market, in the industry, things people should be aware of, things that you think maybe people should be avoiding, just kind of the 2-minute cliff notes of what we'll talk about for the next half hour. Good to go?
Sure. Yeah, I think so.
Go.
So, bottom line up front. Obviously, if you're in the investment industry, or if you're working on houses or buying houses, there's labor shortages. So I would say that's probably one of the hottest things right now, causing costs to go up. What guys were charging pre-COVID, they're charging double, 2.5 times that now. Material factors are all over the place, right? So they're going high, then they're coming back down because of overstock. So those are 2 of the main things that I would say are driving what's happening in the construction, remodel, repair, rehab industry. There's also a lot of different technologies. Technology makes things faster, easier, but can also cause expense. So although it's great to have some technologies, it's something that contractors, remodelers, and handymen have to relearn. They have to purchase new tools. So again, that's causing cost fluctuations and differences. Those are 3 I would say are some of the most driving things. That, and then on top of it, with COVID, it changed a lot, and it still hasn't settled down from that. So again, you've got overstock of some supplies, understock of other supplies. Then there's different things too, like the government's pushing to get a little bit away from gas, so they're pushing heavily into electric type of appliances. So that's driving things. Those are some of the things that we're watching real closely at Bluebook, where we're seeing major impacts or major differences in fluctuations of pricing and how we're looking at developing building our line items. On top of that, I would say with the low inventory of housing and the way that people are building and the way that people are developing things, they're watching it a lot closer. So I say people, I should say investors. Whether you're a fix and flip or you're an institutional, they're watching their prices a lot closer. So technology, utilizing databases like Bluebooks or whoever you're utilizing, and the AI-driven type of factors is making a big difference too of how investors and institutional guys are utilizing that type of data. So I would stick with those.
All right, so lots of buzzwords there: technology, AI, labor shortages, supply chain. I think a lot of people throw those things around and don't really, I think, understand them or know how they're really impacting people on the ground today. And I want to get into that, but first, Bluebook is an old company.
Yes, sir.
Could you just take maybe a minute or two and talk about kind of where it started, where it went, and where it is now, the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So it actually started in 1964 by a gentleman by the name of Dan Jazipovich. Don't try to pronounce that or spell it. It's hard. But
I'm from Texas. I'm not trying.
He was a contractor and then became an insurance agent, and he had a giant notebook full of just notes on pricing. His wife took that and typed it up, hence the very first Bluebook. So they published the first one in 1964. His family-run business up until 2000 rather. The family started to diversify and get into different things around 1982 when they came out with their software technology, DOS based.
Probably a little floppy disk that you stuck in the computer.
Yeah. Matter of fact,
in case you're watching, we'll put one of those on the screen, what a floppy disk was.
Yeah, you might want a little meme or something of what it is. But then I started with the company in 99, 2000. And when I started with them, I was actually just doing contract negotiation, bringing them some new companies. So I was working with like HP and Microsoft. They were working heavily in the insurance industry. Started to diversify some things out from that. They found out my background and taught me their wizardry ways of how they put the numbers together. Where all the secret sauce. Put me in charge of the research team. So then I was wearing multiple different hats. And I stayed as a consultant and working with the company for almost 20 years. Right around 2 years ago, two of my partners and I got together and we acquired the company. So now we're starting 2 years ago. We actually, I should back up just a second. 2014, we got our HUD contract. So we actually developed a database for the property preservation industry.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we got the HUD contract where HUD basically utilizes our database and our software to just validate contractors' estimates that are flowing up in that industry. And that industry is totally different than fix and flip and standard building and remodeling. There's just a lot of factors, right? So we actually built a specialized database just for that industry. And when that happened, I dove pretty heavily into that. So that's kind of my experience with them. And then again, we acquired the company. We saw opportunities where the family's no longer with the company. The family had been gone since like 2018, 2017. And then we saw opportunities where the investors just weren't interested in going. So we were like, hey, let's take this thing to the next level.
And what is the next level? What do you do it?
Well, we're taking our data and we're partnering up with a bunch of different companies. I shouldn't say a bunch, two really, that are helping us with AI-driven things where we're helping people analyze photos and develop estimates based on that. Also taking our technology and utilizing it in a faster, much easier way, very API-driven. So if you've got your own systems or you're already utilizing a system, we can easily API into that. API is an application integration, right? Yeah. So we integrate into your system to where you don't have to go out and buy a whole management system. You don't have to buy the whole estimating system anymore. We recognize that today it's all about speed and efficiency and accuracy. So we've always been good at our accuracy. So now we're becoming more efficient and having that speed built into it. And that's where we're finding that integrating with other systems is just way more efficient.
And is there a system out there that, let's just say, the average investor that's flipping a couple houses a year could like level up their company and tag into to, I don't know, I mean, we get these rehab budgets at RCN, right? Like it's when they say back of the envelope, literally, or back of the napkin, literally it's on the back of a napkin that they, left Buffalo Wild Wings with, and then they were like, yeah, we'll buy that house. And, I mean, but we want to be more efficient. But when you give me a budget that says $15,000 kitchen, that's not a budget,
right?
Yeah. Like, do you guys have some sort of technology interface program that the average folks can use?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Not have to be HUD to use it?
yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought it up. So we do have web-facing programs. So Bluebook owns multiple different platforms, we'll say. We have Blue Hammer, Pro Estimator, and RepairBase are probably the most popular or forward-facing, where you can just go to the website and buy that program. So we utilize that for people just like you were talking about. You're doing 5 houses, 4 houses a year. You just need some accurate numbers on a bathroom remodel or flooring or paint, whatever it may be. We've got over 9,000 line items in our database, and they're all broken down by labor, material, equipment, and then they go to the zip code level and the property characteristics. So very detailed, very accurate on that level and on that basis, but we roll it up and simplify it. So you can get extreme detail or you can just get some numbers.
Nice.
We don't do averages because averages are just going to be, like one of the things we like to say is if you're not getting accurate repair numbers on whatever you're doing, BPO, AVM, whatever, ask for your money back. Right. Because as you know, the reconstruction remodel, those budgets can make or break a deal that fast. And that's what we focus on, providing the details. So depending on what you're looking to do, Pro Estimator or Blue Hammer would be our programs that I would recommend. There are some competitors out there, but again, we keep it very simple.
Yeah.
We're not going to sell you a whole management, auditing, monitoring system. We give you the numbers, you put it where you want.
Well, good, because my people out there, we are simple.
Yes.
Like,
100%.
we don't do complicated. We want to make $50,000, $60,000 on a flip.
Yeah.
And I have 2 types of rehabs that my wife and I still fix and flip here in DFW.
All right.
And there's 2 types we do. It's over budget and way over budget.
Yeah.
But a lot of that's because we go into it still with the kind of the back of the napkin
Yeah.
estimates, or not even estimates, they're guesses.
Right.
It's based on my experience, it's going to be X or Y.
Yeah.
And I do want to dovetail straight into, so I don't feel like I'm like selling your product, even though I want to go check it out.
Sure.
How do you account for the labor issues that we're experiencing? Like here in Dallas, you can't get anyone to show up for anything.
Right.
And I know I hear my friends in these masterminds talk about some geographies where it's not the case, right? Like where they actually are still getting great deals from their subs. And I'm over here like, man, we left that in 2018.
Yeah.
How do you account for the price differences? And I'm not asking to get super nerdy, but I don't mind if you get nerdy. How do you account for the labor differences, the price differences, the timelines? How did you figure that out?
Well, if I told you, the story, we'd have to go find someplace. I'd have to take you out.
Top secret security clearance in the Marine Corps. We're good.
Okay. No, there's a lot that goes into it. So we're constantly researching and studying localized economic and geographic areas, right? So zoning, and that's where we go down to the zip code. But realistically, things change really, really fast. We can monitor and watch, but what we typically will do is we'll say, okay, in Dallas, there's extreme growth. Let me take a step back, actually. When we build a line item, so like let's say you got a 1 square foot patch of drywall that you're going to do.
Yeah.
You have 2 different guys that'll show up for that, either skilled or unskilled. It's going to take the unskilled guy longer, right, to cut it out, replace it, texture it, get it ready for paint. Well, the skilled guy will do it faster and typically a better job. Well, you get 2 different labor rates, right? The unskilled guy will figure it out to the minute what we think it would take him to cut that out, patch it, get ready for paint. The skilled guy is going to do it faster. So we have what we call production times, right? So whatever line item in our database will tell you the minute of what we don't tell you, but we calculate to the minute of what we think it's going to take that person. Now that's going to be adjusted in different types of trades, and obviously electrical, plumbing, whatnot. But when it comes down to the localized area, the contractor is going to use profit and overhead, right? So we'll give you a recommended street level profit and overhead. So we'll say, okay, in your area, this guy should be charging about this, right? And I always tell people, we give you good numbers. Our goal is always to be within 3 to 5% of accuracy, which is really close, as you know. I mean, if you can come in with 3 to 5%, you're going to make money.
Well,
right?
it's a $500 thing, you're $25 off.
Yeah.
We're not moving the needle, right?
Right.
If you're 50% off, if you're $250 off.
That's huge.
Yeah, because we got like 50 line items, right?
Yeah.
Like, that adds up. But,
right.
5%, that's nothing.
Right. So we'll take the line item, the production time that we come up with, the material factors that's localized to your stores, localized to your areas, and we'll give you a recommended price. Let's say it's, $1 labor, $1 material. I'm not saying that's what it would cost, but for simple numbers.
$1 labor, $1 material. I need that contractor in Dallas tomorrow.
That's it. Yeah. If you can get them, I'll take them too.
I'm hiring him full time. No questions asked.
Yes. But say it's $1 labor, $1 material, there's going to be profit and overhead on top of that. And that's all going to be dictated by zip code too. There's an old saying, the contractor is going to price it based on the car in the driveway. If you've got a beat up Honda, he's going to probably not give you, too much of a kick up. But if you're going to Highland Park and you've got a Mercedes and a BMW in the driveway, he knows that he's going to kick his price up. And typically people are going to negotiate. So 2 things I always say to people: we're going to give you a good place to start, or a good place where it should be.
Right.
But you're going to want to talk to your contractor, be comfortable with your contractor, and try to understand if he's bidding it on the car in the driveway or if he's bidding it as a job that on an accuracy level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, because we struggle with this now because, I drive a really nice truck. Mm-hmm. It's a Ram Limited, blah, blah, blah. And I roll up and they know it's a $100,000 truck.
Yep.
My wife rolls up in her Mercedes GLE.
Yep.
They know that's $100,000 SUV.
Yep.
Well, and I always say that then they see her walking and she's got all this jewelry on and all that. And it's kind of like they forget that we're a small business, just mom and pop, as everybody likes to say. And we've got to drive economies of scale. And it's so funny, like, because I'll meet a new contractor sometimes and I'll take my brother-in-law's truck, old beat up Dodge.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll say, I'm their foreman.
Right.
Well, next thing you know, the prices are 50% different.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just
100%.
insane.
Yep.
So
there's a lot of truth to
the car in the driveway. And then also how long the drive is, right? Like, I'd imagine that's a big issue, because a lot of investors are talking about, I want to go to a secondary or a tertiary market.
Yeah.
Well, things work different out in the country,
100%.
right? I mean, especially if you're trying to have your crew from Dallas drive to Maybank an hour and a half away.
Right. Which brings up another great point. There's a lot of factors. It's not just, okay, it's going to take my guy this much time and it's going to take this material. Well, where are you going to have to access the material? What economy of scale is that material based on? Because that's another big thing that a lot of fix and flips or guys make the mistake of. They go, they'll buy a house in what would be considered like a quality of a economy through good or economy through possibly better, meaning, not extravagant. We build our database on economy, good, better, best, designer, right?
Gotcha.
So those are the levels of expense, if you will, or factors.
Yeah.
So if you buy an economy house or a good house and you start putting better materials in there, it's a less likely chance you're going to recover all that money back, because you're going to spend more on the rehab than the house is typically worth. So that's a big common thing that I would recommend people just be careful of that, because that's a huge thing in your factors or in your pricing. The second thing is, remember what the contractor's dealing with. So that way, when you're talking to him and you're saying, hey, $50,000 for a kitchen, I know you can do it for 38. Is he having to drive? Is he having to put off other drives? Did you tell him this is a major priority? I need it done now,
right? To
where he's going to pop his prices up because he's putting you before his standard customers. So those are things to take into consideration. Probably the biggest thing I would recommend is, if you use a line item by line item estimate, to where you're saying, I have to remove the baseboard, remove the flooring, remove the toilet, replace this, replace that. If you build your estimate that way, and then all of a sudden the toilet's not there or this is not there, you can talk to them about that pricing. You have something you can negotiate with. If you walk in with a napkin that says, I have $50,000 for the kitchen and I have $20,000 for the bathroom, he's going to charge you $50,000 for the kitchen and he's going to charge you $20,000 for the bathroom.
Right.
But if you say, this estimate says it should be $36,872 for this kitchen, how close can you get to that?
Right.
You're not going to spend $50,000.
Well, and so often, if you're going for the contractor that maybe can give you a better deal because they're not as sophisticated, they don't have all the overhead of technology and people, the first thing they ask me is, how much will you pay?
Right.
They want me to do the work for them because they don't have, maybe, we'll say, the skill set of putting together an estimate. So at times when I go back to Microsoft Excel, and like make myself break it down. Number one, I find out I was about to be way too cheap in my offer.
Yep.
Right? I was going to ask someone to do something that
Which is dangerous too.
is hugely dangerous.
Yeah.
Because you could lose a good person, or you would put everybody in a position to be very unhappy in a couple weeks.
Or get 2/3 done with the job and you don't have anybody to
That's
finish
what I
it.
meant.
Yeah.
That's what makes me unhappy.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm going to stop there, take a break, come back, and I want to talk about levers,
Okay.
not lever handles. I'll explain.
Okay.
Stick around. We'll be right back. At RCN Capital, we know that time is money. With our competitive rates and quick turnaround time, you can receive funding in as little as 10 days. We offer flexible payment plans to relieve the pressure of repayment process. Our team is experienced in making sure that you choose a loan that will suit you best. Get on the phone with the loan officer today by emailing info@rcncapital.com or clicking the link in our bio. Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. Tim Harridge here with Clint Lien. And Clint, I want to dive right in to something I tell investors all the time. Really and truly, when you're buying houses, there's 3 levers. There's what you pay for the house. And really the market drives that. Specifically in a place like Dallas-Fort Worth, there's so much competition.
Yeah.
I can't go buy a house for 50 when everyone else is bidding 75.
100%.
Right? I got to pay 75.
Yeah.
And then there's what you spend on the house. We'll come back to that. And then there's what you can get for the house, either rent or market resale value.
Right.
And the market drives that.
Yep.
Right. And some people will try to over rehab in the middle and the market won't support it. And that's where the economies thing you were talking about, right?
Yep.
So if I'm targeting this economy of a house, I have to then plan my rehab. So it's kind of like you got to start here and then make. The problem is everyone tries to make this work, what ended up on the first lever.
Right.
And then they're disappointed in the final profit.
Right.
Because the market's in charge here and the market's in charge here and you're in charge here.
Yes.
There's a market, there's a labor market, there's a material market, but I tell people all the time, like, you want to pull that lever down as much as you can on what you pay. You want to push the lever up as high as possible on what you get,
Yeah.
but the magic's in the middle.
That's right.
Right? And so I want to spend a little bit of time not selling your software, even though I think it'll sell itself, talking about ways investors can utilize maybe technology, artificial intelligence, resources, data, market trends to help that middle lever get maybe as low as possible while maintaining this other lever as high as possible. Maybe it enables them to pay a little bit more, or maybe it allows them to compress their timeline to where it spits money out. So supply chain, labor problems. Let's spend 5 or 10 minutes just talking about some tips and tricks that people out there will focus on the investors, not the contractors right now, what they can do to drive efficiency and profitability by understanding renovation better.
Such an amazing question. And
I thank you.
yeah,
Write that down.
no, it is, because you're absolutely right. You know, what you're going to pay for, it's what you're going to pay for it. And what you're going to get for it's what somebody else is willing to pay for it.
Right.
Or rent it or what have you, right? And you're trying to make your magic happen in the middle. Rehab, remodel is a big part of that, no doubt about it, because of many different things. Like we talked about quality, labor shortages, expense, cost, the different things that come into that. Not only that, holding time.
Yeah, you're paying me 12%.
Right, exactly. So if I buy it in January and I don't sell it until September, I've got all that cost of holding it that whole time. So there's a lot of different things I would recommend. Build relationships with contractors, build relationships with realtors, whoever is going to be interacting with you in that middle sphere or on that middle lever. Build those relationships before you pull the trigger, right? Don't just go buy a house and try to figure it out, because then it's all going to be, guess as you go or learning the hard way. Get
Guess as you go. The title of the podcast. That's what I feel like when I still rehab, and I've been doing this 21 years.
Right? Yeah. So that's the biggest mistake people, I think, would make when you first start investing. Put the time into understanding the whole process first before you go put the money down on the house. Second, it's not always the guy who has the nicest truck or the contractor that's available. If he's available, there might be a chance he's not the best out there.
Yeah.
And there might be a reason he's available and he doesn't have a business card and he's saying, how much are you going to pay me? Because he's going to ask for 50% down and then he might be gone.
Yeah.
Gone with your money. So you want to research your contractors that you're going to be doing business with. Make sure they're reputable, they're insured, they have their licensing, whatever licensing they need. Look at their references, look at the different jobs that they've done, right? So do a little bit of research. Do your homework before you put your money at risk. That would be my biggest thing. There's a lot of different YouTube programs out there, a lot of different people who can give you that advice. But in my particular situation is also look at like we talked about, the quality of the house. If you're buying a house that's a good house, don't try to make it a designer house. And when you're designing what you want to do to that house, I'm going to replace the floor, do the paint, remodel a bathroom. Look at what materials and different things that you actually want to use in there. Because when it comes time for you to talk to that contractor about it, he's going to say, well, do you want the $1,000 Kohler toilet, or do you want the, $150 Arctic one? Because that's what he's going to put in.
Are they 150 now?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
they
used to be 99. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be what I would point, where I'd point people to is, that's, I'm going to say that again. That's where I would point people to is understand what you're doing a little bit more before you just dive into it. You might have come up with $100,000 or, a couple $100,000. You're like, I'm going to go buy some houses. Know what you're doing first, learn, put the effort into it. There's always going to be the guess as you go. You've been doing it 20 years. You're still doing guess as you go. So that you can't take that factor out of it. There's a risk, right? If there was no risk, everybody would do it. That's what they say. But you can limit that risk by educating yourself on multiple different ways, and then utilizing an estimating system to negotiate or talk to your contractor.
Well, not even negotiate or talk to them. I'm sitting here thinking sometimes it's about validating, right?
Yeah.
Because I'll use plumbing repairs as a issue. In Texas, our foundations move a lot.
Yep.
And oftentimes there's a plumbing issue that arises that you weren't planning on.
Mm-hmm.
And you call a plumber, and let's just say it's going to be $3,000. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh my gosh, $3,000 to pop a hole and repair a pipe and then pour some your mind kind of starts going like, that's highway robbery.
Mm-hmm.
So then you'll spend a week or two calling around to the chucks and the trucks,
right,
trying to get them to show up. And then they say they're going to show up and they don't.
Yep.
But you do a lot of work and waste a lot of time to save $500 to $1,000.
Right.
For a job that may or may not be done properly.
Yeah. Or you wait that week and it ends up costing you $4,000, and the guy that quoted you $3,000 is no longer available.
Right. Because he was running a tight knit operation and he knew the price. And
or he liked you and now he doesn't.
That happens a lot with me. But no, so like I'm hearing you say that and I'm thinking, when you because I'm guilty of that. I've done it before, and you realize that maybe you got it done for $2,000, but you burned $2,000 of hold cost in the 3 or 4 weeks it took to get someone out there.
That's right.
Because you don't just have the interest you're paying me. Then you get your taxes, your utilities, your lawn care,
everything.
All of that, insurance, it all adds up.
Yep.
And so it's just interesting to hear you say it, because I'm sitting here maybe even from a different point of view thinking it'd be nice to have that software, maybe punch it in and take the emotion out of it, take the guesses you go out of it, and just say, well, maybe 28.75's a fair price.
Right.
And then you can go back to the plumber in this example and say, I put it in my estimating software and it looks like $2,875 is what it should be. Yep. And here's why, here's the line items and the rebar you have to buy and the wax ring or whatever. And then I think instead of not liking you, like you said, now they have some respect for you.
Right.
You know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, and they'll take their guard down a little, because you're not approaching them with, oh, $3,000's way too much. You're approaching them with, hey, I did a little research and I understand what you're going to have to do to accomplish this. Because you just look at it as cut the hole, fix the pipe, fill it in. He's looking at it as, okay, I've got, 8 hours of an unskilled guy, 3 hours of a skilled guy. I've got these materials, these factors. And if you...
And I got to pull a permit.
Right. Yeah. So, and he's looking at it a different light. So you let your guard down, he lets his guard down, allows you to communicate and talk, right? And that's an important factor. That's why I say building a relationship with your contractor. Remember, if you're wanting to do this long term, this is somebody you want to build a relationship with. Just like your customers, your investors, whoever it is, you want to put the research into understanding them and build that relationship. Don't go hard nose against the guy and try to beat him on the brow. Nobody likes that.
Right.
Another thing too, contractors don't get paid for writing estimates. It's a big mystery. Why not? But they don't get paid to sit there and write that estimate.
And the ones that say that they're going to charge to write the estimate, people are like, I'm not paying you to come out. And it's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
You want a site visit, a consult,
Yeah.
and then you only spend 3 hours,
Right.
4 hours writing it up. You want it detailed. You
Yeah.
want contingencies.
Yeah.
You want to put a timeline in there.
Yeah.
But that's for free.
Right. 100%. So understanding that contractors don't get paid for that, they're doing it on the bet that they're going to get the job. And especially when you're talking fix and flip or investment industry, they don't get paid a lot of the times on those jobs, or they might not get those jobs, especially REO,
Yeah.
those kind of things. So take that into consideration when you approach a contractor with an estimate. He can look at that and go, hey, this makes sense. All he has to do is validate it. Does that make sense? So there's validation on both sides. You're validating his numbers with your estimate, but you're validating, or he's validating what you want done with that estimate. There's always unforeseens and factors and different things that come into play. But when you approach a contractor, or anybody's going to be working for you on that level, it's, and then the other thing I would say too is you have a general contractor, he's going to sub out more than likely, sub out his electrician, his plumber, his painter, and all that. If you can develop the relationship and are comfortable with being your own project manager, your own general, you build relationships with each one of those people, each one of those trades. So you'll have your own plumber, your own electrician, your own roofer, right? So that way you're not paying the general contractor 10, 20, 30% on top of what you're paying your other people.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And, you know, you mentioned earlier in scoping, you talked about overhead and profit, right? And people have to understand those are two different things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So my overhead's what I'm paying my staff.
Right.
My profit is what I'm going to pay my family.
That's
right. I mean, like, because I got to eat too, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody doesn't get to eat. And then you mentioned bids and they don't get paid for it. And my buddy Ray Negrete with Rehab Squad was on this show earlier this year. And he was talking about it. He goes, yeah, I get people calling me all the time. I want an investor-friendly contractor. And he's like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
And then they say, well, I want a bid. And he's like, I'll meet you for coffee.
Right.
Like, I'm not, if we're going to work together and maybe build a relationship, it's not going to be, Ray's like, it's not going to be by me spending 5-6 hours of my time doing a job for you that I'll never get paid for.
That's right.
Because you're not willing to commit to a relationship.
Yep.
I found that very interesting.
Oh, it's 100%. Well, again, they don't get paid for that. They don't get paid for that time. Another reference for that is BPOs. You know, a lot of times when a realtor has to do a BPO, if they're going to report accurate numbers, they're supposed to have 3 different contractors' estimates or references, right? Or otherwise they go $5,000 carpet, $5,000 paint, $10,000 roof. And those numbers, again, if you're not getting accurate numbers, ask for your money back because it doesn't do you any good. So realtors ask contractors for estimates. The contractors learn very quickly, I'm probably not going to get that job because it's an REO gig. That house is just going to get pushed down the line. So now they're starting to ask for money to write that estimate.
Right.
So a big thing that we're seeing with Blue Hammer, or one of our products that I'm promoted at the 5-star, is we made it very simple for realtors to write their own estimates so they can be more accurate with their numbers and push it into BPOs, appraisals, ABMs, evals, and all that stuff. So it's not that we're trying to cut the contractor out. We're actually trying to save them a little pain, right? Does that make sense?
Well, it sets expectations too. I mean,
Yeah.
if they do get a call about that property, I mean, everybody's going into it with the same expectation. Now, as a lender, right, you always get leery when you get the deal and it's already been through 3 different lenders. And 3 different lenders have said no.
Yeah.
Right. Or you get I've flipped one house 5 years ago. And there's all these wholesalers out there that are like, they use these dollar per square foot calculations for their rehabs. Yeah. It's like, $10 a foot will get it done. I'm like, man, you got to update your database. Because, I mean, the price of paint, the price of everybody puts a LVP down or LVT and the price of that and the price of labor to get it done.
Yeah.
$10 a foot. I mean, it used to be a pretty good average, but that was 5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, they used to say 10 and 10 is what a contractor should charge profit and overhead. That was That's gone. That
10 and 10?
10% profit, 10% overhead. You should make money on the job, right?
Right.
Well, overhead has gone up immensely across the board, especially like California. Your taxes, everything, your liabilities, everything's gone through the roof.
Yeah.
Right? Profit, well, if you're only charging 10% profit, your cost of living, all your expenses just to survive. Like you said, the profit's to pay me and my family. 10% is not enough today.
No.
Right? So the 10 and 10 myth is no longer really, it's more of a myth now because it's not a good average, right?
Well, then you have all these cities, the timelines are just protracted. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you can't, I mean, city of Dallas, my goodness, in 2021, 2022, I mean, it would be 6 weeks to get a permit approved.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was just, and if you were doing a major rehab,
Yep.
you actually were having to hire people just to go through the permitting process for you.
Right?
It was so complicated. And like you said, you can't take your day off of estimating and running your crews
Right.
to go stand in line at the permit office
That's right.
for something that is going to take 6 weeks.
Yeah. My brother happens to be the inspector of Highland Village.
Yeah.
So he's a construction inspector. And I came out a day early to spend some time with him. And he was telling me how many permits he's got running. He goes, oh, man, I'm just like inundated. So that just shows you there's a massive influx of things going on, and everybody is looking at the same delayed timelines. Again, having relationships with a guy that you could call and be like, hey, Mike, I just bought this house. I'm not trying to push you, but on the same token, what can we do to get me bumped up to the next priority?
Yeah.
If you have that relationship and you have that respect and you presented him an estimate to where he doesn't have to come out and write an estimate for 4 hours, you send an estimate over to him. Here's everything I need done. I'd like to, put a bonus on it for you if we can get it done in this timeline. Those kind of things are going to help you way further than people realize. It's the money that you didn't spend, but the time that you spent that people respect and where you can really make money on the back end, right? Because you're getting it done faster and you're getting it done in a better way. And you have that trust. You can be confident that Mike's going to show up next week and get the job done.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense.
I keep saying that makes sense. So I'm not questioning that, but
No, it does. And I think this is the part of the business that a lot of investors don't want to spend time on. And they don't want to spend time on it because it's vague.
Yeah.
It's not absolute. They want to be told buy at 80% minus repairs or buy at 75% minus repairs or that I'll loan at 75 minus repairs. But they don't understand that repairs number must be accurate.
100%.
Not only for me as a lender, but for you as the customer.
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to lose money.
Yep.
I don't want you to run out of money and not be able to finish the project. And now we're having that tough conversation like, well, you still owe me $200,000.
Right.
So how are you going to pay it back? I mean, so I think that's very important. We're going to take a break, come back, hit the money minute, and then get into some rapid fire. So stick around. We'll be right back.
REI Inc. is a monthly business publication for real estate investors, covering all types of real estate investments and strategies. It is the most comprehensive real estate investment publication on the market. All of the articles are written by the top leaders in the industry, so investors are assured of always getting the best information possible. Each month, REI Inc. also profiles the top companies in the industry and provides insights and data into key regional markets. Along with their sister platforms, the REI Referral Network and Highest Invest, real estate investors have exclusive access to off-market investment opportunities and national acquisition and disposition initiatives. To learn more, visit www.rei-inc.com, where you can also access the REI Referral Network. Also, be sure and visit www.highest-and-best.com to view the latest exclusive off-market assets with near immediate acceptance decisions and closing strategies. You can also email marketing@rei-referralnetwork.com to request more information.
Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Harris. Thanks for sticking around. I'm here with Clint Lien. Clint, it is time for the Money Minute.
Okay.
This is probably my favorite portion of the show. Imagine there's an entrepreneur, an investor, a customer, a rehabber, whatever, a young Clint, a current Clint, whatever, that this is the only 60 seconds of advice they're going to get all month. This is it. They're going to hear this 60 seconds and then they need to go out and make their life better. So 60 seconds, the most important thing on your mind that can help the customer make more money starting today. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Go.
So if you're going to be investing in any type of real estate, any type of properties, I don't care if it's commercial or a mobile home on a lot somewhere, or an empty lot and you want to put a mobile home on it, research. Understand the area. Understand what you're getting yourself into. Understand what you're investing into, what you're putting your money into. Understand where you want to take it and your limits. Spend the time educating yourself before you spend your money. Because if you don't, you're gonna lose money. Happens all the time, every time, all day long. So look at what you're doing, understand what you're doing. Spend that time because it's gonna save you money and you'll end up making more. If you wanna do it long-term, and this is something that you're exploring that you think is gonna be great for you, it's not a YouTube fix and flip channel. There's a lot to learn. You know, it's not these houses you see online where they remodel them in an hour. It doesn't happen that way. There's a reason that everybody doesn't do it, and there's a reason that a lot of people have tried and failed. So I hate to say it this way, but educate yourself. Open your mind and learn before you open your pocketbook and lose, because that's what happens.
So when you were saying that, I was sitting here thinking, there's an old saying, a fool and his money are quickly parted or soon parted or something like that. Someone can fact check the quote. But the bottom line is, don't be foolish or you'll lose your money.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't really understand what ignorance is. Right? Because ignorance isn't stupidity.
No.
Right? You can be a really smart person about mechanical engineering.
That's right.
And be very ignorant as to real estate investing.
That's right.
But if you'll educate yourself and erode that ignorance with knowledge, right, the odds of success just go through the ceiling.
Oh, 100%. I mean, ignorance is usually based on a conscious decision. So if you think about what happened,
listen up.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about what went wrong, you can look back and say, oh, well, that's where I made that ignorant decision that got me there. So I agree 100%.
It's kind of like with me and day trading.
Yeah. I don't do day trading.
And crypto.
Yeah, I don't do that either.
And about any investing other than real estate.
That's right.
Much.
Yeah.
But if you think about, when I think about my relative success in this industry, I started out as a general contractor.
All right.
Right? I mean, I got out of the Marine Corps. Another former Marine hired me to be his project manager. That's how I learned. I learned by having him tell me I was wrong.
Right.
Right? And then learning how to meet the guy or gal at the project and negotiate things. And, you know, when I didn't negotiate it right, you know who was over there with their nail bag on fixing things? It was me.
Yeah.
Because I grew up, my parents were home builders, so I kind of had a lot of background knowledge.
Okay.
But that doesn't translate well to rehabbing.
No, totally different.
And I tell people all the time, it's like, they're like, oh, well, I got my subs. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, it's like the first, second house. I'm like, were you a general contractor before you started this? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Then why the hell are you now?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, where is that?
Yeah.
I mean, you were even hesitant earlier in the show to talk about finding your own subs. You were kind of like, if you want to, you can. But,
Yeah.
I mean, where do people mess up with that?
Well, it changes the game, right? Totally changes the game. If you have a general contractor, you're calling that guy, and every problem is that guy's problem. So he needs to call Bob and Bill and Mike and whoever else, the plumber, framer, electrician, to get that stuff handled. That's his job. That's what he's getting paid for. So you take that guy out of the element, guess what? You're that guy. So now you have to call each one of those people. So if you don't understand the dynamics of that, don't try to be a general contractor. Don't try to be your own project manager. But if you do understand it and you can learn quickly, or you get educated on it before you dive into it, it's a great place to save money.
And I'm going to talk about this from my point of view. When you're in that position, acting as the general contractor, and it's a husband and wife business, and the wife shows up and there's a problem, she calls you.
Yes.
And there have been times that my marriage was very strained because of rehab projects.
Yep.
Because every problem is my problem. So if your significant other or your, we'll just say your business partner, if they're always calling you with problem, it takes a big hit on your ego.
Oh, yeah.
It takes a big hit on your like mental wellness. And that's why a lot of contractors start drinking at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
I was going to say, it takes a huge hit on your whiskey collection.
It's I have a 6-pack of Modelo in the back of my truck right now. I keep a little Yeti cooler back there because I'll still swing by the job sites every now and then, and that's how
called wisdom.
Well, that's how I get people to like the relationship part, right?
Right.
Because if you sit down with our number one guy is Juan Diaz. If I just sit down and crack a beer open with him and I ask, how's your family?
Yeah.
How's your mom?
Yeah.
Is everything going okay?
That's right.
Is there anything we're doing wrong over here?
Yeah.
They'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
And
nobody asked them.
But the other thing is there's never been a contractor that thought the other contractor on the job site did a perfect job.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Never.
Which is another thing if you don't estimate properly going in.
Yes.
And you have to call another contractor to finish out, just be ready.
Yeah.
Everything the other guy did was wrong.
Yeah. 100%.
And it has to be either redone or at least some work.
Yeah.
Because that person probably sucked all the high profit line items out.
100%.
And if you're a quality general contractor or contractor, you can't make a lot of money by sanding some tape joints and retexturing.
Yeah.
So you got to find other things to do. I hate to say it like that.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a $10,000 job and this contractor did $5,000 worth of work of that, it's not going to be $5,000. You're going to end up spending a lot more.
Yeah, because even just the overhead and profit alone is going to.
Yeah.
Now you can't operate on a percentage basis. Now we're looking flat dollar amounts. I mean,
That's it. Well, or another factor that people make a mistake of is they buy a good quality home. They want to make it a better quality condition or home when they're done. Well, they don't have a total better quality budget, so you get better quality kitchen and lights and everything, and then an economy bathroom. So now you go to resell this house, and the guy's like, I like the new bathroom, but I don't want, fiberglass shower. I want tile.
I say it all the time when I'm actually, well, not all anymore, but when I used to be the guy that went out to the house and would negotiate with the homeowners when I was buying, I would always say, they'd be like, oh, well, you don't need to do that. And I'd be like, yeah, you don't really need to, but it's kind of like restoring a Mustang and not painting the hood.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of, you walk behind it, you're like, wow. You see the interior, like, wow. You get around front, like, huh?
Yeah. You're like, what happened?
They run out of paint or?
Yeah, it's 100%.
The whole hood. Like,
Yeah.
well, we're going to run out of time soon. I do want to say, so the Blue Book
Yes, sir.
is more of a higher level digital database product that someone out there that runs a really large company could talk to you about. And then you have Blue Hammer.
Yeah. So let me break it down this way.
Please.
Bluebook is the corporation. That's our company.
Gotcha.
Right? Our core is building, maintaining, hosting, and developing these databases.
Okay.
Right? With the line items of paint, carpet, and all these things. We have different programs for different people. Blue Hammer is a very homeowner-friendly, easy application. So it's bluehammer.com. Pro Estimator is much more detailed, gets into the labor, material, equipment details. You can do all your tax and P&O. That's for your pro, right? And then we have Repair Base, which is for property preservation. So those would be the 3 main web addresses where you can purchase our products right off the web. But Bluebook's kind of the umbrella. Those are our main products. And then behind the scenes, we do a lot of different technology integrations and things with big companies.
Love it. So if someone's out there and they're thinking, man, I want to follow this Clint guy.
Yeah.
Follow you guys on social. I mean, are you personally on social? Is it just the Blue Book?
Yeah. I mean, so for years, we didn't do much with it. So I'm on LinkedIn. We're redoing a lot of our marketing, but you can follow us on LinkedIn. We do have Facebook and we have Twitter. I'm looking for a great person that could handle that for me because I am not the social media guy.
I know people.
Yeah.
And you guys, this has been a great interview. And I think you've got a lot of value to add to our customer base in the industry because also, if you get your numbers under control, you can do the project right.
Oh, yes.
And if you do it right, you don't have to worry about things coming back on you.
That's right.
And that's ultimately my biggest flaw is having grown up, my stepfather was a trim carpenter. So measure thrice, not twice, cut once was always the way I was raised. And so when I go into a house and I see something wrong with it, I'm like, rip it out and redo it. And my wife's over here like, time out, But the nice thing is if you're using something like that, you know your tendencies or you know your end goal, you can make sure that the numbers work and you have the budget to do it the right way.
Yeah.
So you're providing a quality home for the next user.
Yes, absolutely. And you're going to make it an enjoyable experience, right? I mean, or as much as you can. That's the biggest flaw that people make. They underestimate the repairs, they overestimate the value of the property, and they find themselves losing money and saying, I'm never doing that again. You know, if you have that dream and you want to do that, you want to dive into it, again, take the time and learn it. You're going to end up losing something somewhere. It's just, it happens. But the more you can prevent it, the better. And I'm a third generation trim carpenter too. So I get you. If I look at the trim and I'm like, oh God, sometimes a little bit of caulking can go a long way, but.
So I'm out of time, but I'm going to ask this one question.
Sure.
Then I'm going to tell you my answer. What is your favorite thing in a home to build?
Doors or fireplace mantles?
Stairrails.
Oh yeah.
Glued.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the ugliest thing until it's done.
I make doors from scratch.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I love making mantles too, though.
Yeah. And mantles and doors from scratch. Like,
so during COVID, I'm going to tell the story. Be damned with the time. We get locked down. We got this rehab project going. The contractors for a couple of weeks are like telling us they need a permission slip to drive. It was really weird. And one day I just get tired. I call the fence supplier. I was like, yeah, I need this much cedar dropped off at this address. Tell my wife, we're going to go build the fence myself. She goes, who's we? I said, me and my 2 kids that had been sitting home from school and are sitting on their tail.
nice.
And we go over, I build this really nice board-on-board cedar fence. I have cedar left over. I start building shutters and little mailboxes and all this stuff. And I'll never forget that there was a mantle in there that was old stone mantle. So I went inside and wrapped it in cedar. And we're done. And my wife comes over. She goes, 20 years. I go, what? She goes, you've been holding out on me for 20 years. And I'm like, I didn't want you to know I could do this stuff, or this is all I would ever get to do.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm with you. I do love building mantles, but some of the best things I ever built were custom stair rails.
And I'm not talking just cabinet doors.
Oh, I know.
I'm talking like entry doors, big doors, 6 to 8, 10 panel doors, archway doors.
Those are beautiful.
Yeah. And I build the door from scratch, every part. From the jamb, the trim, every piece. They're hard. That's why I like to do them, because they're not easy.
And they last a long time, and everyone notices them.
And a perfect 1/8 reveal.
And on that, we're out of time. If we've thoroughly confused you with the last 2 minutes, just ignore it. Don't worry. Thank you for being here, Clint.
Yeah, absolutely. It was my pleasure.
A wonderful show.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That's it for this week. We are out of time. I'm over time, but that's okay. So I appreciate you stopping by. Remember, your network is your net worth, and today you've been growing both. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Uncontested Investing. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow REI Inc. magazine on LinkedIn and Facebook, and RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time.